Oh, I'm flying weed.
So I guess we might try another project. A winter at the workbench project. I was given this glider some time ago. I'd kind of promised myself never to have anything further to do with balsa wood, because when they hit the ground they don't bounce, they turn into matchsticks. However, this one didn't cost me anything. This is a Spectra, a Great Plains Spectra, and it was given to me some time ago. So I've had it tucked away up in the ceiling. I've even got the handbook, look at that. And the plans. Plans are a little bit worse for wear, but we do have the plans. So it's always a big step if you've got plans. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to have a go at putting this into the air. So as you can see, it's a fairly decent wingspan. I don't have a tape measure on the bench at the moment to measure it, but it's a good size. There's a few dings in it. There's a hole there. There's another hole there. The covering's looking a bit sad. I used covering when I was a teenager. That was solar film. I have no idea what the covering's like today. So learning to cover an aircraft will be an interesting exercise. The first thing I did was have a good close look at this aircraft, and then begin stripping the covering off. A couple of things I discovered. The first thing I discovered is the tailplane angle. That's the angle of this tailplane was twisting downwards like that. So that's going to be a problem in flight. That forced me to remove the tailplane because I need to correct that problem. But also examining the tailplane, it's actually got quite a bad twist to it. And I'm not sure if I'll be able to get that out. I'll try to get that out, I think, with perhaps with a hot air gun. And it's got a tiny little crack in here that I'll need to reinforce. So I'm glad I took that off. As part of the disassembly process, I took the rudder off as well, and I wondered why the strange angle. The rudder was on an angle like that, so the control surface was down, almost touching the other, and it was caused by a repair that hadn't been made true, and of course that's not 100% right either, so I'm going to have to put a couple of reinforcers in here, and then I'll re-glue this back on, and that should solve any of the alignment problems with the tailplane. Anyway, the covering is coming off successfully, albeit with a little bit of difficulty, but we're getting there. I've yet to do anything on the wing, but I think, based on what I've found with the existing covering, I think I'd be wise to cover that as well. Perhaps even put some reinforcers in here. I'll balance this port starboard, so if the wing wants to go one way or the other, and I might provide that balance by gluing little gussets in. I'll put gussets in to reinforce them anyway, but I might put a little bit extra on one side just to get the port starboard balance right on that wing. And I strongly suspect there's a underneath that repair there's maybe some damage I'll need to deal to. Anyway, we are getting there. As you can see, I've stripped the covering off. That's the fuselage. I've also added a block here, lengthened the nose a little bit, about 12mm I suppose, mounted the electric engine I'm going to run on the front there. I'm going to use a folding prop. This one's been broken. I'll have to replace the broken sections of that. I need to fair it up a little bit. That's where we've got to with that one. Oh, and the tail. I needed to reshape the tail a little bit. By the time I got the tail off, I'd done a little bit of damage. Anyway, here's the rudder, stripped of its coverings, ready to recover. Here's the elevator and tailplane, stripped of its covering and ready to recover. I've marked on here the portion that will be glued, and that goes back on there. So I'll leave the covering off that section. Anyway, that came out quite nicely. I've mounted two 9-gram servos in here. I'm going to use these things. I think they're a tube arrangement, a tube within a tube. That's how I'll drive the rear controls. Got a couple of those. The wing's got a little bit of damage that I'll need to repair up under here. This trailing edge has also had a previous repair in it, and I've still got to remove a little bit of covering. We've discovered something which is quite detrimental to the performance of this aircraft. When you attempt to balance the wing in the middle, I'll just hold that here with a bit of a pen, we have one wing that is very definitely heavier than the other, and here's two pieces of balsa, quite significant pieces of balsa. If I put them right out on that wingtip there, and get ourselves centered again, there you go. It's now, well, it's still tipping over that way. Yeah, it's still very much heavier. Okay, so I've actually attempted to counterbalance that a little bit. I fitted a whole myriad of gussets up at this end, and I'll obviously need to add some more. But in addition to that, I've decided to modify this wing by putting in flaperons. It's not bad. It's a long way better than what it was. Well, I've just received a parcel from Pilot Pete, which will enable me to carry on this project. Some Blenderm tape, so that's how I'm going to be replacing the control surfaces. Another battery, very important to have a battery, a Rhino 2200 milliamp hour battery. What is this thing? 24C, or 25C. A folding prop, 7x3. Most important of all, of course, we've got some covering film. We'll try this stuff out and see how we go. We'll work on the tail plane first. We'll make our mistakes on the tail plane. Well, I must say I'm impressed. Put some tape hinges on there, and that's the tail plane complete. Well, that's the idea anyway. Red for port, there's no port left in the bottle. Green for starboard, and the colour difference tells me exactly where the halfway point for the wing is, so I can get it exactly on the halfway point when I put it on the fuselage. And the colour difference also tells me port from starboard when I'm flying it. It's really ungainly, and a smaller iron would be more manageable, but my local model supply didn't have one when I ordered this material, so we've had to jack this up with a domestic iron. I just hope my wife will forgive me. Well, that's the controls finished. I've just glued the tail on, and it's sitting on my work mat here to make sure everything's square. But in the process of doing this, I've discovered that that servo's had it, so I'll have to replace that servo. And the other thing that's happened is I've done some more research on flapper-ons and spoiler-ons, and I think with respect to this aircraft I'll make it spoiler-ons. So we'll a bit of a learning exercise how to program the radio up to do that. Okay, it took us a while, but we now have flight controls. So rudder, elevator, ailerons. So that stick to the right hand aileron lifts, left hand one goes down, stick to the left hand aileron lifts, right hand one goes down. And on this, it's not exactly slider, but on this pot on the side I now have a mix of spoiler-on mix. So I can put some spoiler-ons in. I'll probably try it without spoiler-ons to start off with. There we have it. So the fuselage is unfinished at the moment, but we'll probably fly it like that, get a maiden flight out of the way, and then we'll finish this fuselage. Okay, so I guess the next video will be the maiden flight. Got you later.